The following video is a review of a collectible that has many small parts that present a choking hazard, as well as many sharp edges. Thus, this review is for adult collectors only. All appropriate safety measures should be taken when handling this product. What's up, comic book fans? It's the Emerald Enthusiast of the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network. Here with a look at the Hot Toys 1/6 scale figure from the video game Masterpiece series. This is Marvel's centerpiece character. This is the classic suit Spider-Man. I just can't wait to have a look at this figure. I have been anticipating this figure for quite some time. Years ago, I had some Hot Toys figures that I let go in a trade. I've been meaning to jump back in, and when I heard that there was going to be a classic suit Spider-Man release, I thought there was no better place to do so. So let's go ahead and get a look at the packaging details now. We have a very artistic collage on this side of the packaging. On the bottom, it says Spider-Man. I like this glossy finish quite a bit. On this side, it says Spider-Man Classic Suit. And of course, there's the Spider-Man logo. On the top, it says Spider-Man Classic Suit with some Hot Toys product details. On the back, we get even more product specifics, including the fact that Hot Toys recommends this figure for ages 15 and up. This box is quite substantial, and on the front we get this superb action shot of Spider-Man from the video game. I can almost hear Stan Lee's voice saying, "Have fun with this, true believer." I really like this humorous quote on the inner flap that says, "Writing your memoirs, don't forget the hyphen between Spider and Man." I can only imagine what the younger version of me, who used to adore Spider-Man and his amazing friends, would think of a sight like this. So with no further ado, now I think it's time to bust this figure out of the package and see what's inside. Here is the figure free of the outer box, but still in the inner plastic. And here we have Spider-Man out of the package and ready to rumble. This is the Spider-Man figure that I have always wanted. In terms of aesthetics, I think this is pretty close to perfect. However, for some other collectors, there are some issues that I think I need to talk about during this review. So let's go ahead and get a closer look at this release from Hot Toys now. Let's begin with accessories, and here we have the Daily Bugle newspaper. And this is just an amazing accessory. Just outstanding detail. More so even than I thought when I opened it up. And you can see who is the Spider-Man on the back. And it even has this insert. And there is so much here that it's amazing. The Fearsome Foursome is mentioned here. An article about the Kingpin. Spidey Squashed. There's an article on Martin Lee, aka Mr. Negative. So yeah, just a superb amount of detail on this accessory. Let's have a look at the figure stand now. And of course it says Spider-Man Classic Suit. And we get this very glossy, attractive spider logo. And in the background, we get a collage of various Spider-Man pictures. And on the bottom, some manufacturer details. Unlike most Hot Toy stands, this one has two dynamic pillars that you can screw together. And this is advantageous for posing Spider-Man high up in the air or at the top of the diorama. And of course, we get this waist clenching bracket that holds the figure in place. As you can see, the stand holds the figure very well. It is very steady once it's in the bracket. However, I would caution people on leaving the figure in the bracket for too long, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in this review. Here's a close-up of the two alternate sets of eyes. And when you read the directions, it gives you a specific way to press the lenses that will pop them out. And this will allow you to change the eyes. As you can see here, I put in the squinting eyes, and the process wasn't too difficult. Before I switch out the alternate sets of hands, I should point out that you do get an extra set of wrist peg joints in case you do break those. And also, look at the detail on this. This smartphone accessory is so tiny, but it is magnificent. We're treated to a plethora of alternate hands, and I certainly appreciate that. This is the one that Hot Toys has deemed the cobweb swinging hand, and I'll show you that in just a minute. The other hand is meant to hold the smartphone, but before we get to those, let's have a look at the other sets of hands. Here are the web shooting hands, aka the thwipping hands. Here are the open hands. Here are the pointing hands, and I certainly need to get 2 more Spider-Man Hot Toys figures so I can replicate that meme. Here is the pair of fists. With the first set of hands, this is what they look like with their respective accessories. This is the cobweb slinging accessory. And this is the smartphone, and that looks outstanding. Let's have a look at the lower body now, and you can see the boots here. I do like the way these look. The figure is sturdy, even without the stand. I certainly appreciate this webbing. It's very exact. This is what you would want to see on a classic Spider-Man costume. Perhaps the calf muscles could have used a little bit more definition. Here's the bottom of the boots. Now, some people are complaining about the ankle articulation, and I can understand that. It does feel a little tight, and you certainly wouldn't want to damage this material. Let me get you a close-up of that. Really appreciate this material, both the blue and the red sections. Those look really good. So this figure also has mid-foot hinges, also known as toe articulation. You can see them in use right here. So that certainly gives you posing options. However, it also raises the question of how much damage that might do over time to the material on the top of the foot. So all I can say there is exercise caution when you are using that joint. Let's get a look at the quadriceps now. And again, I really appreciate this material. I think there's good musculature here. You can see the seam that goes up the inner part of the quadriceps. And that's another issue that seems to come up with a lot of areas of this figure is when you articulate this costume, it seems to bunch and crease. And I've seen some complaints online about how that looks and also the question of what that's going to do over time to the costume. Now, for me, I do like this, but I can see people's points here. You can see here the back of the knee, how that kind of bunches when you articulate the knee. I've also seen some complaints about some of the stitching here. And here you see kind of a little weirdness underneath the belt area. Let me get you a good shot there. Yeah, you can see that. Some people have complained that that is a little sloppy. But for me, that is not a huge negative. Here's a look at the hip articulation, and for me, I find this acceptable. However, I've seen some collectors complain that they feel like for a character who is based so much in flexibility as Spider-Man is, that they feel like the legs should be able to articulate further outward. I'm not a gamer, so I've never played the PS4 game. I've only seen playthroughs. But when I saw this figure, it really intrigued me because it reminded me so much of the earliest images I ever saw of Spider-Man from artists like John Romita Sr. and Gil Kane. There you see the spider logo. This reminded me so much of those 70s comics. And so when I saw this, I was like, this is the Spider-Man figure that I want. And I do like the musculature here. It's not overstated. I mean, Spider-Man's a muscular in shape guy, but he's not, a colossus. So here you see the articulation in the torso. And I'm fearful of doing this with too much force. As you can see, the costume immediately wrinkles, and I certainly don't want to damage this. This seam that runs over the obliques and the rib cage, I've seen some people complain online about how sloppy it looks. Now, I can acknowledge that it is not perfect, but it's not a huge negative for me. I think this is where they closed off the costume, but I have seen some internet dismay over this seam. Let's get a look at the back of the costume now, and I really do like this spider symbol. You can feel the edges of it. It's not just paint. It's certainly not a perfunctory effort. It's very exact, and I really like how it looks. There's certainly a classic vibe here, and of course, that's what I wanted. Again, the webbing, very exact. I like the seams here. They certainly don't look sloppy in this instance. So here's a close-up of the upper back of the figure, and I really appreciate this texturing. Hot Toys used some kind of rubbery material, and I think it works very well. The only criticism that I have is that perhaps his trapezius could have been a little bit more defined, but overall, I think what we got just looks superb. Let's have a look at the arms now, and aesthetically, I think these are fine. The overall musculature is good. The webbing, the coloring is good. I believe these are double-jointed elbows. At least that's how that feels to me. In terms of articulation, however, once again, you get this bunching of the material, these wrinkles when you try to articulate the figure. You can get him in a good punching pose there, but I would certainly be careful using the bicep swivel. That feels like it could be really tricky if you did that with too much force. So here are his arms spread outward like this. Obviously, you can hear these ratchet joints here. Don't let your exuberance get the best of you. If you're trying to get this figure in a pose and it feels like the joint is stopping, then don't push it. I can't say enough good things about this head sculpt. This is exactly the way that I wanted Spider-Man's head to look on this figure. The lenses are reflective, very precise. I really like those. The overall shape of the head is perfect. There's the top. You can see the webbing is perfect on this. I just really like the way this looks. In terms of articulation, you can get it to move easily side to side. You can get him to look up, get him to look down. You can get some head tilting. I've seen some people online be a little bit more forceful with this neck joint, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. I have seen other collectors put Peter Parker head sculpts on this figure, and they look fine. So if you have an extra one, you might want to try that. But overall, I'm just very pleased with what we got here. So before I move on to talk about the diorama, I have to talk about my favorite web slinging feature with this figure. As you can see, the web slinging hands actually have these removable palms, and you can change those out to give the figure this web shooting palm. And I really like how that looks. And then you can port these webs into those palms, and it looks like the web is coming out mid-shot. And these are just gorgeous. If I were going to put this figure in a pose and leave it, which I'm not, I just vanilla pose my figures on shelves, I would put it in this pose. Now, I know this isn't satisfying to every collector because some people want very dynamic posing, but for me, this double web shooting pose is perfection. This encapsulates Spider-Man action for me. Let's have a look at the diorama now, and we will start by looking at this scorpion tail. I saw a lot of positive feedback about this. As you can see, the end of this is sharp. It is pliable, but still be careful. This joint is magnificent, by the way. As you can see, it gives you lots of dynamic posing here. That'll give you lots of options. Now, this there's obviously some kind of bendable wire in the middle, and it's made out of some vinyl material, I believe. And I really like the paint choice. But as you can see, there's lots of posing options. So the base comes with this black piece that you attach to the pillar, and then you can attach the scorpion tail to that. So here is the building backdrop that comes with the figure. It has two magnetic pieces that click into place at the top here, and unfortunately one of mine is peeling, so that's a bit of a disappointment, but I do like the overall aesthetics of this. I like the spray painted word scorpion on the side and the little spider. And on the inside, it really looks like a room, including details like this electrical outlet. And I like the way the wallpaper looks there. But my favorite facet of this has got to be this broken glass window. That just looks really magnificent. And, you know, you see on the production images the scorpion tail going through this. This just looks magnificent. I like that quite a bit. You can get the light dancing off of that. So yeah, this is just a stroke of genius. I also appreciate the detail of this air conditioning unit. That's really impressive. Here are some shots from some different angles of Spider-Man with the fully assembled diorama. I really appreciate the city vibe that this diorama brings to the figure, and even though I don't use them in my setups, many collectors will be very pleased with what they received here. I certainly hope you have enjoyed this review. If so, please like, subscribe, and tell a friend to do the same. Stay tuned at the end of the video for some articulation shots, and also remember to catch me on the Multiverse Musings vidcast, available right here on YouTube. And I'll be back with more comic book related content soon. But until we meet again, this has been the Emerald Enthusiast, and thanks for watching.